Break free from the chains of abuse and know that brighter days are ahead. With this guide, you will learn how to communicate better, build your confidence, and set boundaries with narcissistic abuse.
Hello, this is Eva Spencer, and you are listening to Codependency Breaking the Patterns, the codependent recovery guide to cure your soul against narcissistic abuse, toxic relationships, and sociopaths. Improve communication skills, confidence, and more. Provided to you by United Audiobooks. I hope you enjoy my audiobook. Now, let us begin.
Chapter 1. Codependency, the opponent. In order to ensure another's happiness, a codependent person will go to considerable measures, even at the expense of their own health and well-being. Many enablers are willing to put their own convictions and conscience aside to meet the needs of the person they are enabling. When the enabled person allows or even encourages this behavior, it is only possible for it to continue. The commitment and concern that a codependent person has for the enabled's happiness are manifested in their actions and attitudes towards them. Codependency is defined as a relationship in which one or both partners are currently suffering from, or have previously suffered from, substance abuse, mental illness, or family trauma. Developing a codependent relationship as a means of coping with the pressures of one's life is an acquired response to traumatic life experiences. If you find yourself inhibiting any of these behaviors or experiencing these feelings, especially if you can determine you may have had traumatic life situations, it is very possible you are engaged in a codependent relationship. What is codependency? Codependency refers to an addiction to another person, rather than a substance such as alcohol or drugs. Because of substance abuse and addiction, even the most intimate interpersonal connections can become strained or broken. Because it is difficult for someone suffering from an addiction to maintain good relationships, codependency and addiction are frequently observed in tandem. Those who have grown up in a codependent household are more likely than others to acquire codependency due to their upbringing and experiences in the home. The term codependency was first used in the context of families in which one or more members were struggling with alcoholism or drug addiction, respectively. As a result, the word has come to describe the dynamics of a family in which one or more members is battling alcoholism or drug addiction. Numerous dysfunctional family systems can result in the development of codependent relationships. And in many dysfunctional family systems, those codependent relationships are maintained. People who are battling addiction or mental illness are more likely to fall into various codependency roles, which might be beneficial in some situations. Others will become caretakers, which assists the addict with his or her addiction. If a person experiences enough enjoyment and fulfillment as a result of having to care for their partner, codependency can progress to addiction for them as well. Because they all feed into one another's existence cycle, it might be difficult to determine which condition arose first. People who have a better awareness of the underlying reasons for addiction and codependency are better able to recognize when it is time to seek treatment for their problems. The use of manipulative behavior to obtain one's sense of self-worth when one's senses of self-worth is related to another person's affection and acceptance can be defined as follows. It is not uncommon for the term manipulation to refer to a sleight of hand trick, despite how horrible it sounds, when it really means the action of manipulating something in a skillful manner. For many people, the concept of codependency is a tough one to fathom. Some people may interpret it as a state of being clingy or needy, but codependency is a potentially harmful mental and behavioral tendency that can be passed down from generation to generation. In some circles, the term relationship dependence or relationship addiction has been used to describe this phenomenon. When it is someone's first time encountering codependency, it can be an incredibly difficult condition to break. The ability for the other person in the relationship to change their behavior and establish a healthy relationship is attainable if they are provided with the appropriate resources and direction. The first step in beginning recovery is determining where things went wrong in the first place. Are you in a codependent relationship? You may not even be aware that you're in a codependent relationship. Here are some conditions, behaviors, or beliefs that will help you to determine if you are. Your interests are few or non-existent outside of the relationship. They have no hobbies or ideas of their own. If you do, you don't actively pursue them. Instead, a significant deal of your satisfaction and self-esteem is gained from your participation in the relationship. Expression or contemplation of one's own desires and aspirations can sometimes result in feelings of guilt, particularly when done in public. It is possible for those who have them to have feelings that are suppressed or difficult to comprehend. Despite the cruelty and violence of an abusive other, most people who are in an abusive relationship will choose to remain in it. When someone is always concerned about the well-being of someone else, but is powerless to do anything to make that person feel better or right, or to create the perfect environment for the enabled person's happiness, no matter what actions are taken, they are said to be walking on eggshells. What's your damage? Codependency impairs your ability to form and sustain healthy interpersonal relationships in a variety of ways. People must recognize that they need to break free from codependent tendencies in order to completely support their own desires, aspirations, and physical and mental health. Codependents are referred to as reactionary in the literature. This is because a pattern of responding or reacting to the difficulties of others, as well as their own difficulties, will develop. Due to the stressful nature of alcoholism and other addictive behaviors, these reactions are employed as coping methods to deal with frequently unpredictable situations. Stress is something that all people have to deal with on a daily basis, and it is an unavoidable aspect of our lives. We all have different preferences for how we respond and act in specific situations. When it comes to dealing with life's difficulties, many individuals are utterly at a loss as to where to begin the process. Maintaining your composure in the face of adversity can have a huge positive impact on your overall health and well-being. However, the label of codependency is not a medical diagnosis, though it can lead to sickness and interfere with your development. Codependency can exhaust a person and may affect how they interact with others. Some of those who are close to you may get sick as a result of your actions, making it difficult for them to take responsibility for their own health. If you have codependency, it is possible that you've grown to believe that your reactions are normal and that this is the only way things could possibly be. It is natural for a person to feel safer as they become more and more familiar with a scenario. However, the desire to be required and the necessity of being required are two different emotions. As soon as you are separated from the person with whom you have formed an emotional attachment, you begin to feel physically uncomfortable. A person's sense of self begins to dissolve the instant they are no longer a part of the addicted or abuser's lives. And as a result, they feel abandoned. The journey is hard and taxing, but trust the process. The results are worth every step. Being free of the codependent mindset is immensely liberating in ways you can't even imagine at first.
I hope you are enjoying my audiobook so far. It would be a pleasure if you could let me know how you are feeling about this audiobook in the comments section below. We would greatly appreciate it if you could also like this video and subscribe to United Audiobooks to have access to more best-selling audiobooks in the future. Also, please, if you are interested in getting more free audiobooks, please click the first link in the description below. Now, let us carry on with the next chapter.
Chapter 2. To catch a codependent cycle. What's the cause? In certain cases, codependency is a taught condition that has been passed down from generation to generation. In the process of observational learning, children learn to become increasingly reliant on their caretakers as they get older. If a child has a strong emotional attachment to the codependent parent, it is absolutely critical that they do not witness their parents in a codependent relationship with one another. While they are in a good mood, they take advantage of the opportunity to learn from their partners and other people. Putting someone else's needs ahead of one's own is something that happens all the time. Those who were raised by codependent parents are more likely than others to recreate the dysfunction in their own lives, often without even realizing it, because of their lack of life experience. Children who have experienced parental absence, neglect, or apathy are more prone than other children to develop codependency as a result. Children are particularly susceptible due to the fact that they are reliant on their parents or guardians for their survival. If these prerequisites are not met, they will grow up believing that they are unlovable or that the people who care about them are untrustworthy. If their parents have alcohol or drug addictions, spend a lot of time away from home, or abuse other family members, the needs of their children may be neglected. When a child has been mistreated or neglected, it is not uncommon for them to develop an emotional dependence on their caregivers for the well-being of their families. What to look out for? There are 3 stages of codependency that are distinct from one another. They are: early stage. Codependents become increasingly reliant on a single person, which is detrimental to their overall health and well-being. They either overlook or justify when someone else engages in undesirable behavior. For the sake of pleasing others, they may put their own social life and interests on the back burner, which may result in them becoming increasingly lonely. Being driven by a desire for other people's approval, as well as a want to see your family and friends happy, are both inherent human needs. But there is a distinction between these natural impulses and the need to please everyone at all times. People pleasers frequently assume that they have no choice but to make other people happy in order to be happy themselves. Although they understand that pleasing others is intrinsically contradictory to their own objectives and requirements, they find it difficult to say no. Codependent relationships are characterized by low self-esteem on the part of both partners. Only when one person enjoys the approval of the other, or when one person is of service to the other, can either person feel a feeling of purpose. For example, poor self-esteem can be experienced by a codependent person since they must rely on their partner in the relationship to meet their financial needs. In other instances, they need to seek approval from their partner. Or the domineering behavior of the dependent person can be motivated by a deep-seated worry that the other person will abandon them. Middle stage. Anxiety, guilt, and a sense of personal responsibility for your actions rise in direct proportion to the intensity of the actions. Codependents have a difficult time maintaining their self-esteem because they may spend an increased amount of time in the relationship while obtaining little in exchange. As a result, anger, impatience, and bitterness can emerge. It is possible that a drug addict is seeking to alter their partner by nagging, blaming, or otherwise manipulating them in an attempt to influence their behavior. If you believe that your loved one is acting dishonestly, you should inform their friends and relatives. Alcoholism and substance misuse, as well as malnutrition and a sedentary lifestyle, are all related to the behaviors of excessive gambling and shopping. Codependent, subservient, and dependent conduct becomes increasingly prevalent as a result of all of this. It is common for those who are involved on both sides of a codependent relationship to have difficulty recognizing, respecting, and enforcing their own individual limits. Boundaries are beneficial as long as each person respects the sentiments and independence of the other person. Accepting that you are not responsible for the happiness of another person is also an important element of the process. One difficulty that frequently arises in codependent relationships is that one partner fails to recognize and enforce boundaries, while the other partner fails to recognize and enforce boundaries. However, while the other person is in control of the situation and manipulating it in order to gain control over it, both parties stay passive and passively submissive. One of the most important and difficult skills that families acquire in counseling is establishing and maintaining boundaries. Late stage. Given the nature of these issues, each person involved can have a substantial impact on the dynamics of a relationship. It is unavoidable that you will run into difficulties if they are unable to communicate effectively or respect boundaries. Caretakers are frequently under enormous pressure to ensure that everything is done correctly, while individuals for whom they are responsible are frequently concerned that they will be abandoned by the people for whom they are accountable. Even though they are both afraid of being alone, neither of them is content. Although there are unlikely to be many disagreements, both people involved are likely to be concerned as a result of the situation in which they find themselves. Individuals who suffer from codependency may face physical and mental anguish as a result of their addiction to another person. Health problems such as sleep problems, sciatica, headaches, and muscle discomfort might arise as a result of this chronic stress. When there is a drug problem present, addiction becomes more severe. As a result, both your self-esteem and your ability to care for your own needs are reduced. If you live in this environment, you are enveloped in an atmosphere of fear, making you feel helpless, dejected, and even furious. This is going to be a very, very precipitous slide in the coming months. If you are codependent, you have an immediate need to provide a helping hand to someone who is in pain. Because of these emotional and behavioral problems, your physical health is beginning to deteriorate. Stress-related ailments can manifest themselves in the form of symptoms such as digestive and sleep issues, headaches, muscle tension or discomfort, eating disorders, TMJ, allergies, and sciatica, among others. There has been an increase in the prevalence of OCD and other addictions, as well as a decrease in the individual's sense of self-worth and self-care over time. It is inevitable that feelings of despair, rage, sorrow, and melancholy would deepen with time. Chapter 3. The Signs and Signals. Some issues cannot be resolved by the use of either help or saving techniques. Making someone's abusive conduct better by being the ideal lover or family member will not help. It will also not help them overcome their addiction. The majority of individuals require mental health care before they can stop abusing others. People who are addicted to drugs or alcohol may also require treatment. Several behaviors that many individuals associate with codependency include, but are not limited to, attractions to alcoholics, drug addicts, or people with other similar dependence, as well as an attraction to people who are always emotionally unavailable, among other things. They have the impression that in order for their life to be worthwhile, they must be in a relationship with someone, anyone. Attempting to influence the behavior of others, particularly loved ones, When someone believes they are powerless to stop a relationship that they know is unhealthy for them, or when they believe they are unhappy while trying to please everyone else and never taking time for themselves, or when they believe they have forgotten that they need to take care of themselves. You may encounter these situations on a regular basis, and some may find it to be a recurring, painful theme in their life. Recovery may be a very healing and satisfying means of breaking free from old patterns of thought and action. 10 signs of codependency in a person. Low self-esteem. Having poor self-esteem is characterized by the belief that you're not good enough or comparing yourself to others. Low self-esteem is frequently accompanied by feelings of guilt and perfectionism. Because it's not perfect, it only appears or seems perfect. Other esteem is a term by experts used to describe codependent behavior. In contrast to self-esteem, other esteem is an indication of codependency, where you might determine your worth based on the conduct, opinions, or relationships of others, or by making direct comparisons with them. People-pleasing. Wanting to please someone a person cares about is understandable, but codependents often believe that they have no choice but to please them. You're anxious when you're told to say no. It takes two things to make codependence a part of any relationship. First, the people-pleaser must say yes far more often than no. And second, the other person must not only accept this, but also expect it in the relationship going forward. Once that dynamic has been established, it is extremely difficult to break the pattern. Poor boundaries. It is difficult to distinguish between codependence and non-dependence. Some people believe they are responsible for the feelings and issues of others, while others believe they are responsible for their own feelings and problems. The limits of some codependents are rather rigid. People find it difficult to become close to them since they are closed up and withdrawn. Building healthy boundaries allows us to express our thoughts and feelings in a way that is not offensive to others. When you set clear boundaries, you are better equipped to communicate with others when they are acting in ways that make you feel uncomfortable. Developing healthy boundaries and overcoming codependency is not something that can be accomplished simply, and often requires the assistance and support of a counselor or therapist in order to begin learning how to have healthy relationships. Reactivity. Because of insufficient boundaries, you are reactive to the thoughts and feelings of everyone around you. When someone says something you don't agree with, you have two options: either trust them or become defensive. In the absence of a boundary, you would know that their point of view did not represent your own and that you would not be threatened by conflicts with others. Caretaking. Even while it's natural to feel empathy for another person, codependents begin to prioritize other people's well-being over their own. In actuality, you may be in need of assistance and may feel rejected if another person declines to accept your help. Overall, caretaking is associated with codependency because it is rooted in insecurity and the codependent's need to create control over one's own life. Caregiving should be an act of kindness and love on the part of the caregiver. Control. Control is one of the key signs of codependency, whether it be control over oneself or control over others. It becomes confused with the concept of power. Because codependents lack a sense of personal authority in their life, they resort to manipulating and controlling others to get what they want. Instead of focusing on their own pleasure, which would be empowering, codependents place their attention on external factors, such as others' happiness. If you find yourself exerting power over others and attempting to dominate the relationship through manipulation, It is possible you are codependent and need to address and change this behavior. Problems with communicating. Communicating their thoughts, feelings, and needs can be difficult for those who are codependent. Due to your concern about upsetting someone else, you are apprehensive about being truthful. This means that another area in which codependents face difficulties is communication. They cannot say no without feeling bad, and they become resentful when they agree to do things that they would prefer not to do in the first place. This is due to their aversion to taking a position at all costs, which stems from their fear of being rejected. They're like astute politicians who don't want to say anything that would offend or irritate someone else. Obsessions. Individuals suffering from codependency have a tendency to spend their time worrying about other people or interpersonal interactions. Because of their reliance, as well as their anxieties and fears, they become depressed and anxious. Most codependents are obsessed with the people they love and care about, even when those people's issues are not their own. In other cases, they may get obsessed and worried about the conduct of an addict, not recognizing that they have become as fascinated with him or her as the alcoholic is with a drink. When a person is obsessed with anything, they can use it to fuel compulsive attempts to exert control over others, such as following someone, reading someone else's diaries, emails or texts, diluting bottles of wine, hiding keys, or searching for narcotics. None of this is beneficial. Rather, it merely exacerbates the turmoil and strife. The more you become obsessed with someone else, the more you become preoccupied with yourself. When you're asked how you're doing, you may swiftly shift the conversation to the person you're madly in love with. Denial. Codependents are unable to acknowledge their own emotions and demands. Sometimes they don't recognize their own emotions and are instead preoccupied with those of other people. It is difficult for codependents to recognize their own feelings and emotions. What people genuinely feel is either minimized, distorted, or denied outright. Individuals with this outlook regard themselves as entirely unselfish and committed to the well-being of others. They feel that their fulfillment and pleasure are reliant on the actions and reactions of other people, denying their own physical, mental, and emotional needs in favor of their partners. Problems with intimacy. A codependent person is someone who loses themselves in the company of others. Healthy intimacy is defined as a relationship in which two people may be completely honest with each other and are free to be themselves. Because of their inability to set healthy boundaries, the codependent person is fearful of being criticized, rejected, or abandoned. And as a result, they become closed off, withdrawn, and unable to be themselves. They will confuse sex with intimacy in their relationship. They are also concerned that becoming intimate may cause them to feel overwhelmed, or that they will lose their liberty. They may be concerned about being criticized, rejected, or abandoned because of their shame and poor boundaries. It is possible that they are concerned about being smothered and losing their individuality within a relationship. They lack self-respect and regard for the person with whom they are involved. There is never any sense that their partner is on an equal footing with them. There is always one person in either the up or down position at any given time. However, despite the fact that codependents crave personal connections in order to alleviate their loneliness, they are too preoccupied with taking care of others to pay attention to what is going on inside of themselves, making healthy mutuality and intimacy difficult to achieve. Chapter 4. Know Your Type. When the relationship begins to crumble, the codependent enabler will make sacrifices to meet the emotional demands of the other person in order to keep the connection going. At this point, he or she begins to lose track of who they are. The slogan of a typical enabler is, "I'll do everything to help you," or "I take care of everything in our relationship for you. It is not my fault that we are experiencing difficulties." These imbalanced relationships can last for a long period of time, but they are ultimately unsustainable due to the drain on the enabler's emotional, financial, and physical resources, as well as the resulting resentment and strain on the relationship for both parties. The most common barrier people confront while seeking treatment for codependency is a lack of self-awareness. They simply do not recognize their own contribution to the relationship's problems. On some level, codependents are aware that their relationship is dysfunctional, but they are convinced that the fault is with the other person or that the problem is a result of the current environment. As a result, they are constantly whining about and attempting to remedy the other person's problems. For those who are codependent, the concept of codependency provides a valuable framework for assessing how healthy their interactions are in their relationships with others. The first and most crucial step for codependents is to become aware of their characteristics and behaviors. Once you become aware of their situation, they have the opportunity to make changes. Codependency is a learned behavior, and as such, it has the potential to be unlearned. Codependence, on the other hand, may be the result of underlying difficulties or personality types. The 5 types of codependence. 1. Codependents that are passive. A passive codependent is conflict avoidant, venting underlying fury and bitterness by responding with extreme empathy and excessive compassion. A person with this response feels that they are victims of love's unfairness, disrespects inequity, and neglects neglect. Such sacrificial victims do not escape from their scorching rage simmering underneath the surface. You might find yourself thinking things like, "Making a change for me will result in severe consequences," something you may have learned from their experience with attachment trauma. 2. Actively codependent. A person who is actively codependent attempts to control and manipulate a person in order to get their love, respect, and concern. They delusively assume that their competitiveness and counter-aggression are justified. They utilize an aggressive and confrontational method to protect themselves and accomplish what they require. They rarely have any success with their methods of control and manipulation. If you believe you are this type of codependent, be aware that this behavior can generally lead the pathological narcissist to respond with spiteful behavior, which ultimately can hurt the codependent even more. 3. Cerebral codependent. This label describes a connection of intellectual dependency. In order to overcome certain types of abuse, cerebral codependents gorge themselves on information and descriptions of the experiences of others. They feel that the more knowledge they have, the more they will be able to solve the problem. If you feel your behavior illustrates this type of codependency, you should realize that the separation of knowledge of the codependent relationship will not alleviate the trauma and exhaustion caused by your codependency. 4. Oblivious codependent. Oblivious codependents live in the belief of ignorance is happiness. Their desire not to recognize the inefficacy of their relationship is a defense mechanism to keep them feeling comfortable and safe, keep them comfy. They will not only disregard or reject their obstacles, they often diminish and rationalize them. If you find yourself exhibiting this behavior, realize that willfully detaching from the underlying origins of your troubles or feigning blindness, you will perpetuate them with the mistaken idea that what is not seen simply does not exist. 5. Anorexic codependent. Anorexic codependency is a condition that can be brought on by the codependency of a person with a pathological narcissistic personality disorder. A codependent person often goes into codependent anorexia once they have bottomed out and can no longer withstand the pain brought by their partner. As a result, they deny themselves of healthy amounts of emotional and sexual connection, which is a control mechanism. Also, once the non-romantic diet breaks down, their ravenous hunger will return to the mischievous significant other. Sometimes codependency is developed after certain traits of a person become enabled by someone else. The codependent relationship is reciprocal. The enabler and the enabled rely on each other to continue the codependency in their unhealthy relationship. Both members of the relationship are necessary, whether the issue is addiction, bad mental or physical health, and the poor functioning effectively provides each member of the relationship with what they think they need from one another. As a result of their regular support, enablers are able to minimize the external pressures on the enabled person to help the latter mature, improve their life skills, and gain more confidence. Aside from that, the enabled person may have few relationships that are as close as their relationship with the enabler, owing to the latter's below-average performance. As a result, they become heavily reliant on the enabler to meet requirements that would normally be supplied by a number of close relationships. The codependence and resistance to change behavior is due to a high degree of mutual, unhealthy dependency on both the enabler and the enabled's parts. In many cases, even when a relationship is painful or violent, it is extremely difficult for either party member to sever their bond. At the same time, it is not uncommon for one or both partners to feel confined in their relationship. Chapter 5. The Road to Recovery. Recovery does not have a universally accepted definition. To different people, recovery can mean different things. Some define recovery as the goal of being completely free of symptoms. Others may define recovery as being able to manage their illness so that they can lead a meaningful life. Short-term or long-term recovery is both possible. However you define it, the good news is that recovery isn't out of the question. While the process can feel difficult and frightening at times, where you may feel as if you are transitioning into a completely different person, recovery isn't going to change who you are. Instead, it will bring you back. You will be able to manage your codependency well enough that you'll become a person who can function with your best interests in mind. When a person leaves a codependent relationship, codependency does not simply vanish from their life. Recovering from addiction is a process that requires ongoing maintenance, and there is no such thing as full abstinence from social interaction. In therapy, after a number of years, the alterations in thought and behavior become more and more internalized, and the tools and abilities taught become new, healthy habits. When faced with increased stress or when encountering an unhealthy relationship or environment, codependent behavior can easily reemerge, even though it seems unlikely. Because they do not recognize their own role in the relationship's issues, people who suffer from codependency have the most difficulty receiving therapy. Even though codependents are well aware that their relationship with another person is unhealthy, they believe that this is due to themselves as the enabled, or to something that has happened. They are constantly whining about and attempting to remedy the other person's problems. In order to assess how healthy you interact with other people, you must first consider the concept of codependency. What characteristics do you recognize in your behavior? Keep in mind that you may exhibit some or all of these behaviors. That will help you understand how and what needs to be changed. With awareness comes the opportunity to grow and become healthy and happy. Know that while it is true that codependency can be learned, it can also be unlearned. Realize that if you have other, deeper issues or personality qualities at play, your codependence may be a result. Starting by learning to set healthy boundaries is an essential component of the recovery process from codependent behavior. In order to establish and maintain personal limits, you must first recognize and respect your own personal boundaries, which is easier said than done if you have a lifelong pattern of failing to do so. In order to function effectively, a person must be aware of their own boundaries. In what areas of your life do you believe your boundaries are being crossed? Behavior may be quite useful as a navigational tool in a variety of situations. For example, if your boundaries are violated, you may experience fury or disappointment. Or you might realize you are inclined to say yes far too frequently may be seen. Or the fact that they are continuously seeking approval from others may be discovered. Knowing one's own behavior is always the first step toward interrupting unhelpful patterns of behavior. Yet, the subsequent step of communicating one's feelings is not only difficult, but it is also vital. People can become closed off or even create walls that act as complete barriers to other people's interactions if they do not communicate their expectations and restrictions clearly. They may also lash out or point the finger at others as a result of their experiences. One of the most challenging components of overcoming codependency is learning how to communicate expectations and boundaries in a clear and loving manner to the person who needs help. Another approach is to deal with the fundamental problem rather than the resulting behavior or symptoms. Learn to build their feeling of self-worth and self-esteem without having to rely on the approval or validation of others in order to achieve this goal. Further suggestions for you to regain your identity and rebuild your self-esteem include, in summary, the following. Learn how to set emotional, physical, and mental boundaries with others, as well as with one's own ideas and behaviors. It is tremendously liberating to be in this type of partnership, and it lays the stage for greater, more meaningful partnerships to follow. It is important to exercise self-care. Do activities that you enjoy because they make you happy and make you feel good about yourself. In order to receive aid, make contact with someone. Realize that being open to receiving assistance, rather than being vulnerable, is a sign of strength rather than weakness. However, it is crucial to realize that while many aspects of codependency can be dealt with on one's own, professional mental health aid is always recommended. They should seek the counsel of a trained psychotherapist and have the financial resources to do so. It is critical to accept and cherish one's own person. Realize that the only relationship that is truly important is the relationship that you have with yourself. If you find yourself altering your behavior in order to receive external approval, you need to acknowledge this behavior and forgive yourself, but also accept and learn to value your true, honest self for who you are, a person deserving of acceptance and love without needing to change or seek the approval of others. The next section will discuss more on how you can learn this crucial skill and behavior. Chapter 6. Building your self-esteem. As discussed, people who suffer from codependency frequently suffer from low self-esteem and often possess and display perfectionist tendencies. Learning to be compassionate toward yourself is often a crucial element of the rehabilitation process. In therapy, a person can learn how to be kind to themselves and forgive themselves for their own errors. It is possible that their desire to overcompensate will diminish over time. If one has a low sense of self-worth, it may take some time to become accustomed to thinking more positively about oneself. One method of accomplishing this is to create a list of numerous characteristics that one appreciates about oneself. A mature citizen devotes some of his free time to his pottery pastime. Caregiving can be draining on an emotional, mental, and physically tiring level. Making time for self-care can be especially crucial for codependent people because they are so generous with their time and resources. Self-care can take on a variety of forms. Exercise and nutritious meals are excellent ways to care for one's body. Spending time with friends or engaging in a recreational activity can help improve mood. Self-care can be defined as any activity that brings happiness to oneself. Failure to maintain a vehicle can result in a breakdown, just as it does with any other vehicle. It is possible to get burnout and compassion fatigue if one does not take care of themselves. These conditions can impair the ability to care for anyone, let alone the people that one knows about the most. The fact remains that it is feasible to care for oneself as well as those in the immediate vicinity. Self-care does not automatically imply a lack of concern for others. In order to improve your self-esteem, you must confront and overcome the negative thoughts that you hold about yourself. This may appear to be an insurmountable undertaking, but there are a variety of approaches that may be used to assist yourself in this endeavor. Work. A person's confidence and self-esteem can be increased by engaging in activities that they find enjoyable and that they are good at. This could be anything from paid labor to volunteering, caring for others, or even recreational activity. Work can provide a sense of belonging, friendship, a predictable schedule, and a source of income. Some people thrive in a fast-paced environment and relish the challenge of meeting lofty goals, while others regard their employment as a means to an end. In certain situations and careers, work can be regarded as a way to give back to the community. Whatever a person performs as a vocation or job, it is critical that they feel secure and encouraged in their career, as well as that the balance between their work and personal lives is appropriate. Hobbies. This could be anything from learning a language to taking singing or painting lessons. Many communities, for example, have formed local biking, hiking, or walking groups to promote healthy lifestyles. Possibly, learning a new language has been something you've been interested in doing for a long period of time. Take a class or join a local organization to learn more about a person's options. It is also possible that local support groups for a specific issue, such as parenting, dealing with a health problem, or caring for a sick loved one, will be able to provide the assistance one requires. Whatever it is, consider situations in which you believe you have a natural skill or interest, or an opportunity to learn or try something new which you've always wanted to do. Try to pick hobbies where you know you can achieve or display something positive, with the ultimate goal of an opportunity to enhance your self-esteem. Bear in mind, if you have a tendency to display perfectionism, your goal is not to be perfect in your new hobby, but to give yourself an opportunity to grow and learn something new. Not be the best at it, especially right away. The internet, your local library, and local colleges will all offer information about groups and classes offering what hobby in which you'd like to learn or participate. Make an effort to cultivate positive relationships. When you join a new group or continue relationships with others, make an effort to associate with people who will not criticize and with whom you feel comfortable discussing your feelings. People who surround themselves with positive and helpful people are more likely to have a favorable self-image and to feel more confident. Avoid people who display negative tendencies, and always be on the lookout for behavior that will inadvertently elicit from you the learned codependent behaviors you are attempting to eliminate and change. Take good care of one's physical health. Taking good care of one's physical health can make one feel happier and healthier, boost one's self-image and confidence, Physical activity is recommended as it has been shown to increase people's sense of well-being and their self-image. Physical activity releases endorphins, which are referred to as feel-good hormones, that can assist enhancing one's mood, particularly if one does it in fresh air. Sleep. Experts agree that sleep is important to your physical and mental health. A lack of sleep can cause negative reactions in body and mind, and even affect your confidence and self-esteem. It is critical to ensure that one gets adequate, restful, and restorative sleep. Consistency is important when it comes to your sleep schedule. Keep the same bedtime on both weekdays and weekends so that your circadian rhythm stays in check, too. Make a bedtime routine, like shower, pajamas, and brush teeth. It's important to set a time when the lights are off. Avoid afternoon naps if it makes it hard to fall asleep at night. And set bedtime rules for your kids and try to get your whole family to go to sleep at the same time every night. Diet. Eating at regular meal times, as well as drinking plenty of water, eating plenty of fruits and vegetables, and avoiding processed, salty, sugar-filled, and fat-drenched foods will enable one to feel healthier and happier in general. To improve one's overall well-being, it is also beneficial to stop or reduce one's alcohol and caffeine consumption, as well as to refrain from using tobacco and recreational drugs. Create a challenge. Setting and achieving goals for yourself will result in feelings of pride and contentment, and also help you feel more positive about yourself. Make certain that the challenge you set for yourself is one that can be accomplished in a reasonable amount of time. It doesn't have to be anything extravagant, but it should have some significance. Some examples include writing a letter to the editor of your local newspaper about an issue or article you feel strongly about, attending a regular exercise class, or even sorting through your clothes closet to eliminate items you no longer wear and donating or throwing them away. Whatever it is you do, remember that the real, underlying goal is to give yourself a feeling of winning by successfully completing a challenge. Learn to recognize and confront negative beliefs. If you wish to enhance one's self-esteem, it may be beneficial to have a better understanding of your negative ideas about yourself and the circumstances that led to those beliefs. Given that this could be a painful process, it's crucial to take your time and even enlist the help of a friend or spouse to assist you. If one is in a state of extreme suffering, it may be best to seek professional assistance from a therapist who can guide them through the process. Practice mindfulness to help relax. Being mindful, or paying attention to the present moment, can be achieved through various practices such as meditation, breathing, and yoga. Mindfulness has been demonstrated to assist people in becoming more conscious of their thoughts and feelings, allowing them to regulate them more effectively rather than becoming overwhelmed by them as a result. Take the time to engage in some inner reflection, whether through journaling or meditation. This will assist you in discovering who you are, as well as what your values and needs are in this life. Tools such as meditation, cognitive behavioral therapy, and self-compassion are good locations to begin your journey toward wellness. Therapy. It is possible for a therapist to assist a person in recognizing codependent tendencies. Some may benefit from therapy because it helps them identify and embrace feelings that were previously denied or repressed. A therapist can also assist them in understanding why codependent habits evolved in their former relationships and how these patterns have migrated to other relationships in the present. A therapist can also assist individuals in improving their interpersonal interactions. They may instruct the individual on how to provide support to others while not supporting negative habits. They may also assist the individual in developing their assertiveness skills. Individuals who are codependent can also benefit from connecting with their peers in group therapy or support group environments. According to Codependents Anonymous, CODA, the 12-step model of recovery developed by Alcoholics Anonymous was the inspiration for the formation of the support group. Al-Anon, a support group for family and friends of those suffering from alcoholism, is equally focused on assisting members in breaking free from their cycles of dependency. Discovering how to say no. Saying no is one of the most difficult things for a codependent person to accomplish. Their habit of prioritizing others may cause them to become oblivious to the fact that their own needs aren't being adequately satisfied. One issue is that the individual may be concerned that a no may end up ruining the relationship. Establishing limits, on the other hand, can be beneficial to a relationship. The likelihood of misunderstandings decreases when people communicate their desires and dissatisfactions in straightforward terms. A no can also assist someone in prioritizing their time and energy on the tasks that are truly important to them. Over time, the codependent individual may experience increased energy and a more positive mood. These modifications have the potential to strengthen the overall relationship. Boundaries might change depending on the individual's needs. A new couple may decide to impose a limit on the number of times they text each other during the course of the day. Two people who are preparing to get married may have a discussion about how they would share their finances. Simple boundaries communicated clearly might assist to build trust and make both parties feel safer. Recognize that a person will never be able to please everyone. Some people are averse to making concessions. To be valid, one's border does not need to be approved by the other party in order to be effective. If a person is unsure about how to say no to a loved one, the following suggestions may be helpful. There should be no space for doubt. Saying no out loud is often more effective than implying that someone doesn't want something. Make yourself available to be repeated. In the case of a loved one who is accustomed to people caving in, it may take a few times of saying no before they realize someone's serious. Don't make up reasons to not do something. Lying about non-existent commitments will almost always result in negative consequences in the long run. Consider the idea of passing the torch. Try to send the individual to someone who will be able to provide them with more appropriate assistance. Supporting as compared to saving. It is possible to provide assistance for the people in your life without feeling as if one has to save them from their circumstances. People need to be encouraged and listened to in order to receive support. Saving is the act of resolving a problem before the individual has a chance to do so themselves. The process of repairing one's own mistakes provides a certain amount of life learning. If someone steps in and fixes everything for someone else, that individual loses the opportunity to learn coping methods and gain self-confidence. They may require those life skills in the future to address a similar challenge. Chapter 7. Healthy and Happy Relationships. Healthy relationships are characterized by honesty, trust, respect, and open communication between people, and they necessitate both partners' efforts and willingness to compromise. There is no unequal distribution of power. Partners recognize and respect each other's independence, are free to make their own judgments without fear of retribution or retaliation, and collaborate on decision-making processes. It is important to realize that there will be ups and downs in every relationship, and they will all require effort, dedication, and a willingness to adapt and change. Although there are steps that can be taken to build a healthy relationship, whether it is just starting out or has been together for years, there are steps that can be taken. No matter how many failed relationships someone has had in the past, or how many times they have tried and failed to rekindle their current relationship, there are ways to stay connected, find fulfillment, and experience lasting happiness. A few tips on growing a happy and healthy relationship. 1. Healthy relationships are characterized by the acceptance of people for who they are rather than what we expect them to become. 2. Communicate with one another. It cannot be overstated that clear communication is essential in maintaining healthy relationships. This means allowing each other some personal time. Genuinely listen to what they are saying, and don't try to insert what you think they should be saying, how they should say it, or what you think they might be saying. Make an effort to comprehend their point of view. Ask questions about what's being said. Demonstrate interest. Inquire about the other person's past, present, and future experiences, feelings, opinions, and interests. Above all, share information. According to research, sharing information can aid in the formation of new relationships. Allow people to know who you are, not who you think they might want you to be or be like. 3. Accept accountability for your actions. Be willing to change outlooks. It is normal to be apprehensive about major life changes. Relationships that are healthy allow for change and growth. 4. Don't forget to look after yourself. Healthy relationships are mutually beneficial and allow for the needs of both parties to be met. 5. Demonstrate dependability. If someone agrees to something with another, follow through is important. If you accept responsibility for something or someone, you must see it through to completion. Healthy relationships are based on mutual trust. 6. Fight on an even playing field. Most relationships are characterized by some level of conflict. It simply indicates that one and one's partner are at odds over a particular issue. It does not necessarily imply that they dislike each other or that the relationship is about to end. Recognize that some problems are difficult to resolve. Allow time to cool down before speaking. It is best to avoid using the words always and never, and to deal with one issue at a time. The values, beliefs, habits, and personalities of individuals may not always be in sync with another's. Communicating effectively can go a long way toward helping better understand one another and address concerns. But some issues are deeply ingrained and may not be easily changed over time. It is critical to determine for yourself what you will accept, as well as to decide when a relationship is no longer healthy for you. 7. Have a positive attitude. Studies show that happy couples have a ratio of about 5 positive interactions or feelings for every 1 negative interaction or feeling. Warmth and affection should be expressed. 8. Maintain a sense of balance in one's life. Other people contribute to the satisfaction of our lives, but you need to understand they are unable to meet all of your needs. Find something that interests you and get involved. A healthy relationship allows for time for extracurricular activities and me time. 9. Relationships are a methodical procedure. Although it appears that everyone on Earth is confident and connected, the majority of people have concerns about fitting in and getting along with their peers. It takes time to meet new people and get to know them on a personal level. Healthy relationships can be learned and practiced, and they can continue to improve over time. 10. Be authentic. When compared to pretending to be something or someone else, it is much easier and more enjoyable to be authentic. Authenticity is the cornerstone of healthy relationships. 11. Ensure that one and one's partner commit to spending regular quality time together. Put away your electronic devices. Stop thinking about the outside world and its pressures, and spend a few minutes each day truly focusing on and connecting with your partner, no matter how busy you are. 12. Do something you both enjoy doing together, whether it is a shared hobby, a daily walk, or simply sitting and talking over a cup of coffee or tea, or at a shared meal in the morning or at the end of the day. 13. Participating in new activities with a group can be a fun way to build relationships and keep things interesting. Simply going out to a new restaurant or going on a day trip to somewhere you've never been before can be extremely rewarding. 14. Keep the focus on having fun. In the early stages of a relationship, couples are frequently more amorous and playful with one another. But when life challenges get in the way, or old resentments resurface, it's easy to lose sight of the importance of a playful attitude. But maintaining a sense of humor can assist you in getting through difficult times, reducing stress, and resolving issues more quickly. Other ways to have fun are to consider creative ways to surprise someone, such as bringing flowers to their home or booking a table at their favorite restaurant without their knowledge. Find fun things to do together, like playing with a pet, your children, or grandchildren. Above all, engage in life and include one another. Final words. The condition of codependency is difficult to eliminate if it's not recognized. But once it is, you can recover and discover a better life and happy, healthy relationships. The process of achieving the proper balance between being independent and being codependent takes time and requires patience to achieve success. Remember to make a note of the steps outlined above in order to overcome codependency, but don't expect to see immediate results from a person's efforts. When codependents worry about things and people over which they have no control, it is all too common for them to waste far too much of their efforts without seeing many, if any, positive results. Gaining a better understanding of yourself, honoring yourself, and expressing yourself freely are all essential components of the codependent recovery process. Know that to be happy, you must stop deferring to others or accepting their expectation that you will make them happy at the expense of your own desires, best interests, or emotional fulfillment. Instead, you must begin doing things that will make you happy and expect that others accept the responsibility for their own happiness. Realize that it is difficult, if not impossible, to spend much time worrying about the emotions and behaviors of someone else while going through the process of developing a relationship with oneself. Recognize that none of us are responsible for any emotions but our own, and that the only behaviors you can truly affect are those you, yourself, perform. Even though loving yourself may seem self-indulgent, when you do, you have love to give to others that is both therapeutic and uplifting, for anyone with whom you come into contact. To establish feeling healthy, balanced, and loved, you must take things one step at a time and acknowledge and celebrate all of the small victories along the way. Realize that love and power are not incompatible with one another. Loving someone does not imply that you must give up your own identity, and in fact, doing so can lead to feelings of resentment later. Instead, live consciously. Accept responsibility for yourself and your choices. Build your self-esteem by communicating your needs and desires. Reclaim your power over yourself. Develop a sense of safety and mutual respect with others and allow them to express themselves honestly, set boundaries, and say no. Healing from codependency entails not only recognizing what you require, but also asserting what you desire or require. Humans are not capable of continuing to act and feel like victims or martyrs on an ongoing basis. The ability to communicate assertively, stand up for yourself, set boundaries in order to protect yourself from being mistreated, and cultivate relationships in which people give and receive equally are all important skills for us to learn. Recognizing and accepting your own identity is a critical component of recovering from codependency. In many cases, codependents spend so much time thinking about and attempting to care for or appease someone else that they lose sight of their own requirements. Because of this, people must take the time to intentionally discover who they are, what they like, what is important to them, what their aspirations and goals are, and so on. People who are recovering from codependency must remember to be gentle with themselves as they go about their recovery. In general, codependents are harsh on themselves, are highly critical of themselves, and are highly critical of themselves. This is unjustified and counterproductive in the long run. As a substitute, you should treat yourself with kindness, acceptance, and support, just as you would treat a dear friend who happens to cross your path. Recognize that your attention is diverted away from solving your own problems when you are attempting to change, advise, or command the attitudes of others. This is even more true when there is an addiction involved. But if you stop trying to solve someone else's problems, you're not giving up on them. Instead, consider that you're allowing that other person the opportunity to take care of themselves. Be patient with your attempts to change your own codependent behavior. Recognizing the condition is like a tree with many roots. You need to trim one root at a time. Focus on one behavior each day. Enlisting the assistance of a therapist or qualified person will make the process more manageable and successful. Recovery is a journey that can be filled with highs and lows on a daily basis. Making a point to check in with yourself gives you the opportunity to assess where you are in the recovery process. You might realize you need to experiment with different coping mechanisms. It will be easier to realize that you're not to blame for your difficulties if you learn as much as possible about your mental and emotional condition. If you find yourself feeling down, it is beneficial to create and keep a list of your accomplishments for inspiration, especially if you've created small challenges for yourself as suggested and were able to achieve success. If you created and kept a journal as suggested in Chapter 5, you can refer to it when you feel lost and rediscover or refine your thoughts and plans. Another effective method of reconnecting with oneself is to act as an advocate for oneself and share one's story with others. To determine the effectiveness of storytelling as a therapeutic technique, numerous studies have been conducted over the past decade. Shared experiences, whether in writing or verbally, are an important part of the recovery process for those who are struggling. Having a strong sense of belonging to a large community is a great way to feel emotionally strong and resilient when going through difficult circumstances. Take, for example, the activities that one enjoys participating in. In order to broaden one's social circle, one should consider becoming a member of a community organization that brings people together who share similar interests to their own. A person possesses the ability to break free from codependency. While recovery is a process, thinking about all of the changes that one wishes to make can be overwhelming. The good news is that recovery does not have to be all or nothing in order to be effective. It doesn't matter if you only make a few minor adjustments. You will reap the benefits of this positive change. People who approach recovery from codependency with patience and consistency will gradually gain confidence once they can recognize and acknowledge their successes. With consistent practice, support, and the acquisition of new skills, you can walk confidently on the road to recovery. Above all, it is necessary to rebalance your life in order to recover from codependency. Rather than focusing solely on what others require, you must consider your own requirements and place them first on your priority list. While this does not mean that you should never consider or care for the needs of others, it does mean that you must consider your needs as just as important as anyone else's. In fact, if you do not take care of yourself, you may become depleted, resentful, and unfulfilled, and not be able to care for anyone as a result. In this way, understand that taking care of yourself by staying healthy and strong will make your ability to take care of others even better. If you enjoyed this audiobook and you've learned about how to fight codependency, an honest review is always appreciated and will help me reach new listeners just like you who struggle with codependency. Good luck on your journey. Eva Spencer.
We appreciate you tuning in to one of our captivating audiobooks. For more immersive experiences, here is another audiobook we're certain you'll enjoy. Don't forget to show your support by liking this video, sharing what you loved about this audiobook in the comments section below, and subscribing for more captivating audiobooks like this. Thanks for being a part of our audiobook community.